I'm sure a bunch of webcomic readers are wondering how closely the manga will be following it for this new arc of One Punch Man. Well, many of you may be happy to know that the answer is very. If that's not what you wanted, well, consider there's still a chance that things could take major detours further on. But for now, it is pretty one-to-one. At least in terms of events and how they happen, like Saitama gaining a new pet. Let's dive into everything this chapter holds for us. The cover page features a rockin' and super cool looking Tatsumaki with her hair up and pigtails and her hands out making nuts and bolts float. Between the big hoop earrings and the see-through top of the low-cut cargo pants, I can imagine a lot of people liking this version of her. But sadly, there is nothing about her in the actual chapter. But that might change in the upcoming ones. But anyways, the title of this chapter is The Last Guy I Want to Run Into. It begins with giant buildings being shown and an unknown man saying, "He's in room number 104, right?" As I said before, for the webcomic readers, you know exactly who they're talking about, but it makes it no less fun. And knowing that the new tenant didn't greet his neighbors, this mystery man plans to give him a piece of his mind. But he is not alone. He has brought two other mystery heroes with him. The three men were annoyed and would say, "Let's see what kind of jerk he is." The frog costume hero continues to ring more aggressively when there is no answer. The taller of the three encourages him to keep at it since he just heard sounds inside. Yikes, imagine the person was just trying to take a peaceful nap or do something more private than that. The headphone hero, and a kind of Saitama lookalike, points out that there's already rumors about the rudeness. That this person has an attitude problem no less. So next, and this really reminds me of Snack, he says that they need to show him who's boss. Screaming probably much louder than needed, he shouts, "Hey you, quit hiding inside and get out here." And of course adding, "You rookie," for good measure. Whatever the case, it works and the person inside gets up and away from whatever they were doing and heads to the door. The front door opens slowly and ominously, with nothing but darkness shown inside. Are we sure this isn't a horror manga? Anyhow, the three heroes stand there, proud and ready to at least give the person a piece of their mind. We switch back to the view inside the apartment. It's pitch black and now there is just a silhouette of a chiseled face starting to appear. Okay, already that's a hint that it is not Saitama, as he is generally much more round-faced and goofy. With a simple, "Can I help you?" the person speaks. This doesn't discourage the trio from their confrontation, as the bubblegum chewing one says, "We live in rooms 101 to 103. Us, the readers, knew they were disgruntled neighbors, so it would make sense that they live right next door. The tallest one, standing in the back, makes the cheekiest face when he suggests the person in 104 come out for a little face-to-face. Well, little did they know, King is a man inside room 104, and when even half of his face is in view, the tides begin to turn. The cheeky headphone wearer looks like he is about to pee his pants, and when King speaks, it only gets worse. The intimidating face is at it again, causing the smaller hero to sweat and freak out internally. Meanwhile, King admits that he also came to visit the person who lives there, but he isn't home right now. When he exits fully, saying, "Too bad." All three of the men at the door are completely shook. Even the one inside the frog outfit is visibly terrified, trembling inside of it. You would think that they saw a ghost rather than an S-rank hero. It's not like he beat them up just for annoying him. Or is that maybe something they would do? That wouldn't be very hero-like though. As we move to another location, back in the destroyed Z City, a helicopter is shown flying around and looking for someone. The people inside say, "There he is." Two figures hidden in shadows inside the helicopter discuss how there is a tracker on said person and wonder why he's hanging out in the rubble. Well, rummaging through it rather. Even from afar, just the shape of the person is hard to mistake for anyone else. It's Pig God. But the perspective quickly shifts to a survivor of the Monster Association, a certain Black S, hiding beneath the rubble himself. Once we're given a closer look, Black S is sweating profusely, afraid to be found by the S-Class hero. Seeing how small and likely powerless Black S is now, he'd be no match for Pig God's stomach. He even points out that the extermination should be over already, letting us know that a decent amount of time must have passed. One of the men inside the helicopter hangs from it dangerously, startled to see Pig God just digging through debris and previous destruction. Yelling from the chopper, he informs the hero that he should still be resting and that he needs to return to the med lab. Nonchalantly, Pig God just tells him to wait a minute because he's clearly looking for something specific. He runs towards an already panicking Black S, but he is not out there for him. The helicopter lands, trying to force the giant hero back, but Pig God's already scrambling away in spite of his size. Not to mention all the radiation he took, says the agent. Then, a hero we have yet to see or hear speak appears from behind the man in the suit. His hair is in spiky ponytails with pointed brows and massive beads around his neck. He paints an interesting and somewhat fierce picture. He accuses S-Class heroes of being self-centered, which can you really argue against that? They're always out to prove that they are the best and never want any help, even when they really need it. Now mind you, I am speaking generally because of course King always wants some help, but yeah, I digress. This serious hero reveals to us that he is there to basically wrangle Pig God back to medical care since he left prematurely. The next shot we are given of him depicts a massive boomerang and a shell dangling from his beaded necklace. Finally, we find out his hero name is Air, and he is an A-class. Not quite the name I expected considering how he looks, but oh well. But unfortunately, this guy doesn't quite get the assignment and announces he will finish off a wounded pig. Kinda overconfident, my guy, but also why are you trying to end a higher ranked hero? The agent blurts out, "Don't finish him off," and admits that even though he's done this, Pig God is still one of the pillars of the Hero Association. And for good measure, he reminds Air not to hurt him, because this man is just stalking Pig God like John Wick getting revenge for his murdered dog. With a burst of speed, Air is rushing towards the larger hero. At the same time, he contemplates how strong or useful these so-called pillars can be if they were taken out by a single hero hunter. Though Air is spitting facts about them being spoiled and neglecting their training, he wasn't there at the time. He can't really speak to just how fearsome Garo, especially in his cosmic mode, was. As if to prove his point that the majesty of the S-Class has fallen, Air challenges Pig God to a fight, pointing at him rudely with his boomerang. While they have their stare down, Black S is shaking in his metaphorical boots, hiding behind one measly rock left unturned. Back to Air, he smiles while saying that Pig God needs to be obedient and go back to getting medical help, or else he'll have to face him to have his freedom. And when exactly was his freedom in question? I honestly don't think Air is any less self-centered with the way he is saying this, to be honest. In the background, the agent is freaking out because why exactly has it come to this? He curses the heroes for always causing these sorts of situations and even questions his career choice. Suddenly, a sound comes from behind the two heroes, rummaging in the rubble. It turns out to be a not quite destroyed evil natural water. If you need a reminder, Saitama had previously destroyed evil ocean water in the past, but it looks like it is kind of hard to completely eradicate something as insidious as liquid. Pig God is shocked by the water monster. I'd call it more of a puddle now. Meanwhile, Air looks ready to fight it. Before launching his weapon, he yells, "I don't overlook small fry." Now, if you recall, evil natural water tends to go for whoever is attacking it first. It is more instinctive than logical in that way. So of course, when it sees a boomerang coming at it, it throws an attack right back, spitting right through the weapon with ease, and unfortunately, punctures Air's throat at the same time. Black S is shocked to see his former comrade still alive, not even aware it was in the vicinity with him. Now, I know Pig God is a hero, a good one at that, but God is he terrifying when he opens his mouth to completely swallow the remnants of evil natural water. He even shoves the monster in with both of his arms to make sure he didn't miss any part of it. With a difficult gulp, he tries to ingest it, getting holes pierced through him for his trouble. Pig God looks like he's been shot about 9 times but survives, even with blood escaping his mouth and a blank look in his eyes. It certainly freaks out the agent in charge of him. He starts to question everything he's just seen, like what that was and if Pig God ate it. He also kindly tells him to spit it out, clearly worried for the hero. Who wouldn't be? But Pig God just looks on with a serious expression, wanting to take responsibility for any mess the heroes might have left behind. With a psychedelic background and a strange angle for emphasis on the weirdness of the situation, Pig God says, "It's okay. It's digested now." The agent seems lost at words at that, suggesting they return to the medical lab now. Even after having holes shot through him and eating an unknown creature, Pig God still wants to eat more. He says he will find his way back on his own after stopping at a ramen shop, but he also admits that the helicopter probably can't take his weight, which I was wondering about. Before he goes, however, Pig God points out that Air needs more medical attention than he does. And I'm not gonna lie, I honestly assumed the guy was just dead. I guess even an A-class hero can survive being shot in the throat. Pig God points out one more thing as he makes his way through the rubble. There might be other survivors from the Monster Association. And he is certainly on the money with that, considering Black S is right there hearing everything. Sweating even more now, Black S curses the fact that they might survey the area again. Once all the people are gone, the former executive gets out of his hiding spot, looking for a new one that can keep him alive a bit longer. The reason he's worried is because, well, he's the only cell left. He wouldn't be able to face most heroes like this. Looking more depressed than ever, he contemplates where to go, and how the Monster Association ended up defeated. Trying to stay focused, Black S reminds us that he needs protein to strengthen himself, and possibly to create more cells to combine with. He calls them emergency extra lives, and that sounds an awful lot like Mario and his mushrooms. Shockingly, Black S is so weak right now that even a puppy could take him down and considers eating some bugs to remedy that. In case you didn't know, insects are one of the living creatures with the highest amount of protein in them. Unfortunately for Black S though, he comes across a Cape Baldy rather than some bugs. We see Saitama smiling at whatever he's discovered in the rubble. It turns out, holding a building above his head, that it is his old apartment. Genos congratulates him on the find, while Black S does an insane breakdance move from his hiding spot from the shock. Even if no one else saw Saitama's naked final punch on Cosmic Garo, Black S certainly did, as shown through the flashback. And this is the accurate reveal of the title he is the last guy I want to run into. With the smallest of sounds behind them, Genos' sensors are alerted to a presence, while Saitama happily stares at the remains of his possessions. Poor guy, I hope he at least finds his piggy bank. Black S shakes with fear at that, certain that he's the target of Genos' piercing stare. But instead, he calls for Saitama, holding up a smaller, but still large Rover. I don't know about you, but I worry sometimes for Saitama's memory. He doesn't seem to recall fighting Rover and doesn't recognize the dog anymore now that it has shrunk down in size. But I'll give it to him since he looks like a kid on Christmas morning. Black S is surprised, possibly pleased to see another monster survived. Of course he sees it as bad luck that Rover has lost most of his size and likely can't fight the duo who discovered the dog monster. Through his imagination, they're depicted as cruel giants shrouded in darkness, ready to destroy a helpless monster. Black S sees this as harsh luck and even prepares to run away to avoid being caught next. And man, can you imagine if these two chose to kill Rover? It would certainly change my view of them, especially with Saitama who tends to prefer to talk things out beforehand. At the last moment though, Black S turns around and sees Rover being gently lifted into the air by Saitama. The panel itself is really cute and honestly wholesome regardless of the two monsters found in it. Seeing that, Black S can't help but keep watching. Saitama exclaims, "What a nice dog," surprising no one save for the monster in hiding. Our hero keeps looking down at the small Rover while Black S observes and analyzes the situation. He wonders if Saitama likes animals and that's why he is taken to a mini Rover. Eventually he begins to recognize that Saitama will avoid needless violence when possible, which especially makes sense for someone who kills most things with one punch. At that, Black S begins to have some hope that he can survive by joining along with Rover. We shift to the two heroes discussing Rover and Saitama taking a liking to the dog, whom he previously trained pretty quickly. Genos even wonders if his sensei always liked dogs, and it turns out that it was just recently, probably in the Monster Association headquarters. But seeing Saitama smiling so happily and him being able to enjoy a fairly normal moment is nice. Interestingly, Genos is shown darkening, looking more and more evil behind Saitama as he says, "They are indeed cute, are they not?" So yeah, Genos is definitely jealous here as Saitama's attention is being sent to this dog as opposed to him. However, this is interrupted when Genos gets called away back to the Hero Association headquarters, though he was in the middle of saying that the cost of food for Rover would be expensive. We all know Saitama to be a frugal penny pincher, and so that was one last jab by Genos before he goes to try and convince his master not to take Rover in. Putting that aside, Black S becomes the focus again and settles on his decision to try and join their group. And I can't argue with him thinking that there wouldn't be a safer place than to live with your strongest enemy. Though if you ever turn on that person, you wouldn't survive for very long. Even thinking that, Black S is still sweating bullets, preparing himself to come out from hiding. With a weird sound or an attempt at making animal noises, Black S jumps out with Saitama looking on in confusion, still cuddling Rover. I'm sure you're wondering if Black S's plan will succeed, and well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see until the next chapter to know for sure. But what we do know is that Genos is not as pleased as Saitama to have a new pet dog. Maybe because he knows how scatterbrained his master can be at times. With that said, what do you think will happen next? Will Black S become just another pet for Cape Baldy's household? And also let us know how hyped you are to have the return of One Punch Man after this hiatus. As always, I'm SliceOfOtaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.